Lesson 12-2, Statistics and Parameters. In this video, you will learn to identify statistics and population parameters and analyze data sets using statistics. So, these are your vocabulary words. I will give you the Spanish translation in class. So, first thing you want to talk about is statistics and parameters. So, the statistic is the fact or the information that you're getting from the sample, whereas the parameter is from the population. So for this, it says identify the sample, the population for each situation, then describe the sample statistic and the population parameter. So a movie rental business selects a random sample of 550 orders in one day. The median number of rentals per order is calculated. So a movie rental business selects randomly 50 orders in one day. So this is going to be our sample, the 50 randomly selected orders. And the population is going to be all of the orders in the movie rental business. So the median number of rentals for the sample, that's the statistic. But the median number of rentals for the population, that is the population parameter. Okay, so there's the sample, the population, all the movie orders for one day is the population, sample statistic, the mean number of rentals per order in the sample, and then for the population, it's the mean number of rentals per order for all rentals of the day in the all rentals the day of the sample. Okay, so for this one, we want to find those three things again. So a stratified random sample of 2 trees of each species is selected from all trees at a nursery. The mean height of the trees is the sample that is calculated. So first thing we'll talk about is the sample. The sample is going to be the selected trees. So there's 2 trees of each species found in the nursery. And then we're trying to find the population. So it's going to be all trees in the nursery, right? And then we want to find this statistic. So the statistic is based off the sample, and we're trying to find the mean height. So it's the mean height of all the trees in the sample, which means the population parameter is the mean height of all the trees at the nursery. So the population parameter comes from the population, sample statistic comes from the sample. Okay, so you guys try this one and see if you can identify the sample, and then the population, the statistic, and the parameter. Okay, next thing we want to find is the absolute mean deviation, the MAD. Okay, so we need to follow these 4 steps first. First thing we need to do is find the mean. So if you guys remember from years of math, that mean is the same thing as the average. Okay, and you do that by you adding up all the numbers and dividing by the total numbers you have. Okay, so that's the first step, find the average or the mean. Second step is find the absolute value of the difference between each data value and the mean. So like let's say I have a list of like 2, 3, 4. I average these up, so I'm going to do 2 plus 3 plus 4 over, and I have 3 numbers, so I divide by 3. So this is going to be 9 over 3 is going to be 3. So 3 is my average. So when it says find the absolute value of the difference between each data value, these are each data values. So I'm trying to find the difference between the average, which is 3, and each of those. So 3 minus 3 and 3 minus 4. So then I find the difference. So this is 1, and this is 0, and this is -1, but the absolute value brings it to 1. Okay? So then step 2, after you find all of those, is you add them all up in step 3. So I'm going to do 1 plus 0 plus 1, and I'm going to get 2. And then the last step is to divide that sum by the number of values in the data. So in this case, I had 3 data values, so I'm going to take that sum that I just got, 2, and divide by 3. So 2/3 is going to be my MAD. Okay, so let's try that with this one. So first thing I want to do is find the average. So I'm going to add up all of my numbers and divide by 6 because I have 6 numbers there. So I'm going to do 14 plus 18 plus 12 plus 17 plus 15 plus 20, and I'm going to take that number and divide by 6. Okay, so when you add up all those numbers on top, you get 96 divided by 6, and you get 16. So 16 is my average, and we label that with a bar over the x. So I get that. Now the next step is to find the difference between each of these numbers and 16 and take the absolute value. So I'm going to do 16 minus each of those numbers. So 16 minus 14, 16 minus 18, 16 minus 12, 16 minus 17, 16 minus 15, and 16 minus 20. Okay, so 16 minus 14, that's 2. Absolute value of 2 is 2. 16 minus 18 is negative 2. Absolute value of 2 is 2. And then 16 minus 12 is 4. Absolute value of 4 is 4. That's negative 1. Absolute value is 1. This is 1. And then this is going to be negative 4, but that's going to be absolute value is going to be 4. Okay, so then step 3 was add them all up. So 2 plus 2 is 4, plus another 4 is 8, 9, 10, 14 is my total. Okay, and the last step was take that total, 14, and divide by the number of numbers we had, which was 6. So 14 over 6 is 2 and 1/3. Okay, so that's my mean absolute deviation. My bad. All right, you guys find the mean absolute deviation for this one. Sorry, I forgot to mention interpret the mean value deviation. So what the mean value deviation, this is about how, on average, how far my data, my information is away, like how far away it is from my average, which was 16. So we can say that on average, it was about 2 1/3 points, or number of pets away from 16. So it could be 16 2 1/3 more or 2 1/3 less than 16. So it's how far it is from the mean. That's the mean average absolute deviation. Okay, so now you can do this one. Okay, the next thing we want to look at is standard deviation. So in order to do this, we want to find the mean, so step 1. Step 2 is find the square of the differences between the data value xn and the mean. So again, this is doing the same thing, except now instead of doing absolute value, we're taking the difference and squaring it instead of the absolute value. And we're going to find all the sums of the values in step 2, divide by the number of things, and then at the end, we're going to take the square root of the variance. So this part inside here, without the square root, that's called the variance. When you take the square root, it becomes standard deviation. Anyways, all right. So let's do example 3. Leo tracked his homework scores for the past week, and they were this. Find and interpret the standard deviation. All right, so in order to find standard deviation, we want to find the average. So we're going to take 100 plus 0 plus 100 plus 50 plus 0, and we get the total of 5 numbers. So we're going to divide by 5, and so it's 250 over 5, which is going to be 50. So his average is 50. So we want to find the standard deviation. We're going to take each of those numbers and subtract. We're going to do that number minus 50 and square it. So 100 minus 50 squared. And then I'm going to add it to the next one. 0 minus 50 squared. And then the next one, 100 minus 50 squared. And then 50 minus 50 squared. And 0 minus 50 squared. And I'm going to divide this by the total I have, which is 5. And then the last thing I'm going to do is take the square root. So let's calculate this. So this is going to be 50 squared plus, well, I'm going to pause the video and do this, and you guys can calculate it on your own. Okay, so after you calculate this, you're going to get down to the square root of 2,000, which is 44.7 about. So What this is saying is that if your average is 50, a lot of times the range that we're looking at is going to be about 44.7, greater or less than that. Okay, so you guys try and find this one. Because this standard deviation was pretty big, that means that our data wasn't super close together. It was pretty spread out. So a lot of the scores are far from the average. So you guys do this one and see if you can interpret and find the standard deviation of the data. Okay, and that's all that you guys have to worry about for tonight. There is still one more example on your note-taking guides. We're going to do those in class tomorrow because they require the calculator. Well, they don't require it, but we're going to use the calculator. So, yeah, that's the end.